So we're for the purpose of the future people who are watching this online later, we're breaking this up into two different sections. So we just did the finance section, and now we're going to move on to the safety and town connections section. So we're going to pretend like none of that happened, or that it did, but it's in the past. And Abby's going to break up our executive assistant's going to break that up. So I'm going to reintroduce everyone here tonight. So I want to thank everyone for coming again. And I would like to introduce the folks that are up here tonight. We have our interim superintendent, Mr. Steve Chamberlain, our business administrator, Amy Facey, our school board chair, Tom Gauthier, and I am Josh Conklin. And welcome to everybody who is here, and welcome to everybody in the future who is watching online. And so at this point, we're going to talk a little bit more about safety and town partnerships that will be built through this project. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Steve Chamberlain again.
And this will be quick. I did get a chance to read the New Hampshire Homeland Security's evaluation of the Clark Wilkins site, just to see, and it was done a few years ago and how that was connected. So there's been a movement in schools. It's called the hardening of schools. And that is like the bullet resistance glass and bollards in front and all that work. And some of that will come, but it's not possible for this building and the portables to be hardened into a controlled access safe place. So that isn't an option. And when you look at here, and I had a chance to talk with Heather Blaze, who's a school researcher, Sarah, Kathleen today, and read the Homeland Security part. There's really two components about this. And one is just how do we control access to the most precious cargo in the world from people right in the community. And as you walked into here, there was a little bit of a portal, a two-door system, but that really is a heating two-door system. It's not a security two-door system. And what Kathleen Murphy, the principal, talks about passionately is it's possible to walk into Wilkins and go anywhere in the building. We don't know. There's no check. There's we hope check-ins, but there's no required. And for example, if you've been to Souhegan High School recently, they just put in a new controlled access in the front entrance, in which you have to stop and meet someone, and they let you in based on an assessment of where you're at and what you have to need. And so there isn't full access. So the new building would have controlled access, in which you would only get into the school after being evaluated. And Linda lets me in over at Souhegan, but if someone is, very angry or very heated, you don't have to let them in. Here, you walk in and then you check in. And so this is really ripe for an update, and was noticed in the Homeland Security evaluation about how to improve controlled access to this place. And the same thing over at Clark, of course. So the other piece about the safety, and to be honest, it was actually 2 years ago that I was hired, and I came for some tours before I came on as the assistant superintendent. And Christine Landworld, who's the other assistant superintendent, I think she was in charge of me for a few days, and we toured, and I had no idea that Clark Wilkins at Amherst had portable classrooms. I had no idea, and I was very, very surprised. They're hidden out back, and as Kathleen spoke about the other night, I think there's been 2 fires in them. And as your interim superintendent, I was afraid in the fall, and we'll be in the spring, that if a skunk goes underneath those, I'm going to have to cancel school for a couple of days. And I don't like to cancel school, as everybody knows. But so I worked in a small school district, and I believe for school, the most important thing in school safety is relationship between kids and adults. That if someone is concerned about someone, that they tell an adult. That's where I haven't been invested a lot in the hardening of schools. But controlled access is an area I think that is really important. And in my time as a superintendent, there was one very concerned security situation at our elementary Harold Martin school, where we lost a student for a half a day. And what happened was, it was a custody issue. And a parent who did not have custody came into the school, went to the classroom, and said, "I'm dismissing you," to the little, and it was the dad, and they dismissed, and they left our school. And there was no controlled access back then. There was no peace, and the person did not have custody. The mom, we lost. It was it was a struggle. And when I talked to Kathleen in here, that's one of my biggest concerns here, is that there be a sub at a portable where a custody issue where someone walks in and goes to a little and says, I'm dismissing you for the day. And there's no controlled access. With a controlled access system, before someone signs out, you actually can check very quickly if the person who is a guardian for that person can take that person. And we actually do that. Now, because of, we know historically, but if, at the beginning, so that, for me, that is one of the concerns that I have about having unfettered access to classrooms without a controlled access. And completely honest, I am surprised that this community has continued those end of life, not secure, additional portable classrooms. And this project would eliminate the portable classrooms. And I think when talking with Heather and Joe, the school resource officers, the controlled access and eliminating the portables is the greatest thing that we can do for the safety of our students here at Wilkins. I'm talking to Kathleen today. The other piece that she struggles with, the same that we have, and I just learned this fall, the Amherst SAU 39 schools have a unique alarm system that I've never seen in another public school. It's a lockdown alarm system. So instead of a fire alarm, which is everybody leaves, there's a different color alarm you pull that everybody stays. And the portable classrooms don't have that ability to do that. And that's of concern for our principal, that the same safety measures for kids out there don't exist for kids out here. And if you get a chance to watch the educational improvement video we did about a half hour last week, Kathleen is really extraordinary how she describes the educational impact of having kids in portables. It's not a tonight thing, but it is worth watching because it really is a difference. It's a different experience when you're out in portables. But those are the highlights of the most important security measures that will be gained and solved. Tom, John, actually, and we worked on negotiations together, and we like to solve problems. And we solved it. We can do a whole night if you want to collect a bargaining team. That'd be fun. If you want to do that, we can do that too. But we solved a problem, and this would solve a problem forever. We would have control access, and the portables would no longer be part of our facility, that we would have a safer school with this new design. Also, the ability to have an administrator at a building full time is also a safety, because we're at two campuses. There are times when, not often, but the administrators are here instead of Clark, or Clark instead of here. And that can be problematic with our safety precautions and our incident command system of not having an administrator at the building all the time. But if with one building, it would be just about guaranteed unless it's a professional development. Any other thoughts that you had your experience here about safety and security? Is that just about cover those?
I think that covers the sort of the hardening and stuff like that. One of the things that I notice as I walk around this school in terms of health and safety is this school, while there was electricity when the school was built, it wasn't built for modern classrooms, right? And so when you walk around, and I tripped over when I was plugging Tom's computer in, you've got extension cords everywhere. We work in different ways than we did 50 years ago. And so, it's not a big major hardening type concern like you talk about, but I do worry about all the cords that have to get plugged in, and in a modern school, how that functions, and things like, I know I've heard Kathleen talk about not having sinks in every room, and that seems like a small thing, but when you think about the health, especially in recent years for our kids, being able to wash the hands in the classroom and not having to exit and then come back is another one of those small concerns that I think a new modern building would really help us create a safer environment inside the school, just on the day-to-day type of stuff.
Thank you. Absolutely agree. And especially with the littles, we don't like a lot of cords around for the littles. That's not our favorite thing. Questions about safety and security? Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Please.
I just wonder if air quality and asbestos are problems that would be solved with a new building.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Asbestos is contained in this building. We're not having any issues with that now, but obviously any work that we were to do in a renovation, you never know what you're gonna find, but it's still not the ideal way to handle it, but it is contained. Air quality, we've passed our air quality standards, but no doubt it would be improved, as would the efficiency of the HVAC system, which would lead to better air quality, but also just better temperature controls as well for students when they're in rooms, especially at the middle school level, which is a long-term project there that's a little more dramatic in their swings, but certainly having a more efficient, more consistent heating and cooling system here would be better.
Absolutely. And believe it or not, I think we test the air quality 4 times a year here.
Correct. And that's a fairly new initiative, if I remember correctly.
And it's an extraordinary, it's really nice, especially, it really does show care for the students and the employees when you invest that kind.
But that only gets more difficult too, as you have a building that ages with a system that ages, and replacing the HVAC in here is not cheap by any means. And at some point it will need to be replaced in the next 5 to 10 years at most. And so you're going to spend millions on that regardless. It's just a matter of how we're doing it as part of another building, or if it's replacing in this building. And once you start to get in there and you dig into walls here and you start digging into all the other places where these pipes and everything are hidden and air ducts are hidden, you start to open Pandora's box a little bit, which I don't imagine would be much fun in a building that's going to be 55 years old now. No, 55 years old.
Questions about that? The next piece, and very briefly, just to talk about what are the benefits of this project to the community at large, not just the educational components and the youngsters. One of the, and we talked about it last week, one of the benefits of the design is that there would be a gymnasium, a designated gymnasium space, which has extraordinarily positive impact on the education, because it frees up the schedule and you can actually design a schedule based on learning as opposed to lunches. Because right now it's a lunch piece. And so having an additional gymnasium in the community would benefit a significant number of people. For example, this week I had a meeting with the athletic director at the middle school and the athletic director at Sauhegan High School. In the middle school, so the middle school uses the gym until 7:30. Then the recreation department takes over till 9:30. And then the adults take over from 9:30 to 11, and having another gym. So some would say the recreation department ending at 9:30 is probably too late for a lot of our youngsters. So with another gym, we could really probably get to the community around 7:30 for volleyball leagues and adult basketball leagues. And an additional gymnasium in a neighboring communities has really impacted positively adult use of that facility, especially in elementary, because it's not like you have interscholastic games at night like it's how we get high school. So there really would be significant use for the community. One of the initiatives, I don't know if we had silver striders. In Hopkins, you have silver striders that we actually had senior citizens come in and walk in the winter in our gym. Which they really loved, and we would talk, and because there was a 2-hour block where the gym was empty. So in the cold days, like having this weekend, they were the silver striders, and they walked and they got to see kids, and it was a lot. So that any community partnerships we can have access of this facility, and I think obviously it's an outdoor wall, so it'll be designed in a key swap area where people will be able to have access just to the gym without the entire school. And that kind of use and that kind of access would be very efficient and very appropriate for use by the community members. So I live in Bow, and I've actually tried to find the best commute to Amherst, and I went Joppa Hill for a while, and then I went but now I'm going actually through Mount Vernon and coming in through where Mount Vernon takes about 46 minutes from my house in Bow. But with that experience, I just started experiencing the traffic around 7:30 through Wilkins as I head to the Brick. And I remember talking with Kathleen one day. I was coming in and it was 7:51 and there was still traffic out there. And so I said, so that's about 10 minutes loss of instruction every day at 7:51. And so then actually the first day of school this year, most superintendents go to the littles, and the first day of school I was here for drop off, and it was 7:55 before all the drop off, first day of school, they weren't used to it. And I got panicked because It's about a 650 youngster school now, and you add grades, right? Add the next grades plus fifth grade, it's gonna get to a 900 kid school. And I went to Kathleen, actually I went to Rogers, our facility director, said, how are we gonna do drop off for 900 kids? And he said, Steve, we do it in Wyndham. And so Wyndham has an 1,100 student elementary school. And I was very concerned because I love instructional time. I really think the most important thing we do in school is kids in class with teachers. I really love instruction, really good instruction. So I worry about when the drop off and the traffic goes in instruction. And so we actually that day had a Zoom call with the principal at Wyndham, and then 1,100 students from beginning to end is 15 minutes, which is pretty impressive. And the design that Josh spoke about early is very similar to the Wyndham design, in which the loop goes, it's a double loop, well, 2-lane all the way around the school. And so you pull lots of yards off the road, and we have multiple drop-off sections. By the design, you drop off grades at different sections. So full expectation, if Wyndham can do 1,100 and we have 9, max will be 900, and the same architect, we will have drop off, we will have greater instructional time and less traffic, because the Clark traffic goes, because it all comes here, and we have multiple drop offs. So I really, and all data and all experience by the design with a similar design says that we will have less traffic stops here because of the loop and the multiple drop-off areas. And I think that really, for me, when I commute that's a few years ahead, but I think with the commute, so it will have a positive impact on community use, but will also have positive impact on the commuting and positive impact on instructional time, because we're going to make the drop-off with a new facility, a new design loop much more efficient.
And one drop-off, because right now the buses are going to both schools. There's traffic in between Clark and Wilkins, so it's challenging logistically. So the students will be on the bus less time, and as Steve said, getting those buses onto the campus and off of the roads is better for the students and better for the community.
The last thing I've heard people talk, I think Victoria's talked about this. With the parking, with a new parking and with a new design, there will be opportunities for more community use, not just at the gymnasium, but other meeting spaces. The library, typically at all the schools that I've been to, the library has been open for community spaces for girls, for all the clubs. So I think it's going to be designed with much easier and restricted controlled access at all areas of the school for the community. So you're typically much more comfortable using the community using the school, and the board, and we want the community to be able to access the gym and access this facility, because it's an incredible asset, and certainly we wanted to make available to the community. But when I talked to Kathleen, those are the major pieces of security and town school partnerships. Anything else I missed? Anything else you want to add?
I just think one of the things that comes up a lot is Clark School too, and what happens to Clark afterwards, and how that could be used by the town potentially. And Jeannie, who is here, was on that subcommittee with me, and we sort of had a lot of discussion about what that could look like, and that ultimately is going to have to be a decision down the road as to what happens to Clark. But you can imagine there are some scenarios again where you have a small gymnasium there, you have smaller classrooms that could be turned into meeting space or yoga space, or one of the most popular ideas was a multi-generational center that somehow gets used. That is a discussion for down the line, but that building doesn't go away. And the hope is that something good could come out of Clark. While it's no longer as functional as a school as it used to be, it could still, provide something to the town.
It's going to be the pickleball capital of the world, just so you know. Every space right now is going to pickleball. So it'll be the Clark Pickleball
Sounds
Center. Questions, any thoughts before we wrap it up? If you get a chance, the educational video, I think you'll find very interesting. It's on the website. And if you need to reach out to any of us, we'll get it to you. Really glad you came. Thank you for coming and showing interest. Are you okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
for coming out, and we're happy to answer questions afterwards. But thank you.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you very much.